What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So today we're going to do a Social Security update. I'm going to show you guys an expert in his field when it comes to Social Security and Social Security reform. It's Mr. Swagel, and he's going to talk about some of the challenges as well as some of the options when it comes to moving forward with Social Security. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, if you guys can do me a favor, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification. And like always, thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. You can also support us by joining our membership. Just click the join button below. You'll get customized emojis as well as custom badges. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to show you Mr. Swagel. He's going to be talking about, I believe he's a doctor. I'm not certain on that, but he's going to be talking about Social Security reform. Here we go.
With that, Dr. Swagel, I'm going to call on you for your 5 minutes.
Very good. Thank you, Chairman Ferguson, Ranking Member Larson, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for inviting me to testify about Social Security. Social Security faces a significant financial challenge. Under current law, in our projections, the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund is exhausted in fiscal year 2033, and the Disability Insurance Trust Fund is exhausted in 2061. If the two trust funds were combined, they would be exhausted in fiscal year 2034. After the trust funds are exhausted, we project that the resources to pay benefits in 2035 would be 21% less than the amount of scheduled benefits. And that shortfall would increase over time. In CBO,
and this is important to know what he just said there. So he's talking about 21% across the board cut. We've heard 23%. We've heard up to 25% cut. But he's saying that over time, it will only get worse. So let's just say 10 years or 11 years from now, we're looking at this shortfall where the trust funds have completely depleted. Then we would be looking at a situation where we see, in his words, a 21% cut. Now, if Congress continues not to do anything about this, the cuts will continue and they'll only get worse. So very important to note there. It's not just going to be, let's just say if it was 21%, it's not going to be, okay, 21% cut and no more. Every year we would be looking at more cuts if Congress doesn't act.
CBO's projections, about 82 million people, that's roughly 1/5 of the US population, receive Social Security benefits in 2035. That's a projection. If all Social Security benefits were reduced by the same percentage in that year, lower income households would reduce their spending by more and increase the amount they work by more in percentage terms than households with higher lifetime incomes. Legislative action would be needed to avoid this scenario. The imbalance between the system's revenues and scheduled benefit payments extends beyond 2034, and that imbalance grows over time. We project that the actuarial deficit over the next 75 years equals 1.5% of GDP, or 4.4% of taxable payroll. So that is, scheduled benefits could be paid over 75 years through 2098 if payroll tax rates were increased by 4.4 percentage points right away, from 12.4% to 16.8%, and that's an increase of 35%. So that's a 35% tax hike.
Okay, and this is something really important for us to talk about. So he's talking there about the payroll contribution. Right now, you contribute, if you're working, you're contributing 6.2%. Your employer is matching that 6.2%. So that's 12.4% that goes to the Social Security Administration and it helps pay out benefits. Now, I believe he said there, if we're looking at I don't know if he said 4.5%, I can't remember, but just give or take 4% increase, then that would be enough to provide the payroll contribution enough money to pay out benefits until 2098. Okay, so we're looking well down the road. So that would mean a 2% increase for each individual, because it wouldn't be a 4% increase, because remember, the employer has to match. And so, yes, the employer would get that 2% increase as well, but for you, if you're working and you're contributing to Social Security, which most people are, you're going to pay 2% more. That's what he would say. That's what he's saying there. So that would be a fix. So the raising the cap, we hear, raising the cap on the wealthy or just raising the cap across the board. I've always said that the best option right now, because we have to face reality. We're dealing with politicians. Politicians are well funded by these wealthy people, right? They're getting a lot of their campaign contributions from wealthy people. Former President Trump was just out in California. He's not out in California doing campaign speeches. He's out in California because he's earning money for his campaign. Okay, he went to Newport Beach, went to Beverly Hills, and then I think went somewhere up north, and now he's out of there. Now he's gone from California. He didn't even. I don't think he did any speeches at all to the people because he knows that California he's not going to win California. Let's just face it. And so he's just here for the money. But you have a lot of wealthy people who live in California, and wealthy people, if they're contributing to these campaigns, guess what? They have that. They can just call up some of these politicians and say, hey, I need you to work with me when it comes to this, and I don't want to have to pay more as far as a payroll contribution. I make over $400,000. I don't want to have to pay. And that's how things work. So the reality here when it comes to the payroll contribution, it's probably going to be all of us that are going to have to contribute a little bit more in order to solidify Social Security, in order to reform Social Security. And what he didn't talk about here is he didn't talk about an increase for benefits, but if we're looking at a projection that pushes us out to 2098, I'm sure there could be a way where they could provide an increase to Social Security benefits, and maybe it doesn't extend out to 2098, but maybe it extends out to 2075 or something like that. So just something to think about when it comes to it. But very important, what he is saying there, and he's giving you the numbers. He's telling you, look, if we raise the payroll contribution by 2% for individual and 2% for the employer, we would be okay. We would reform Social Security by doing that.
Alternatively, a reduction in scheduled benefits of 24% would permit full payment of those smaller benefits through 2098. And of course, a combination of changes to taxes and benefits or relying on resources from the Treasury's general fund could also suffice. And policymakers, you and your colleagues, can have different changes applied to people of different incomes and people of different ages. Additional changes would be needed to ensure solvency beyond 2098. The aging of the population is a key factor affecting the finances of Social Security. The number of people aged 65 or older who are less likely to work and pay payroll taxes and are generally eligible for Social Security benefits is projected to grow faster than the number of people aged 25 to 54 who are more likely to work and to pay payroll taxes. Population growth is determined by births, deaths, and net immigration. Fertility in our projection remains lower than replacement. We project life expectancy will continue to increase. And immigration is now an increasingly important part of the growth of the US population and the US labor force. And all of these demographic changes affect the financial status of Social Security. A feature of CBO's work is that the demographic and economic projections used in our Social Security analysis are consistent with those used in CBO's baseline projections and for other purposes. In closing, let me note that any projection over a horizon of 7 decades is inherently uncertain, but it is clear that action is needed to make Social Security financially sustainable. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, so there was Dr. Swagel talking about Social Security and how we can reform Social Security. And he also said something there, and you might not have heard it because I didn't hear it the first time that I watched. I just actually heard it this time. But he was talking about the general fund. They can actually take money from the general fund. This is not something that we want. We really want Social Security funding to come from the payroll contribution and the trust funds. We don't want it coming from the general fund. And the main reason why we don't want that is because if we start taking money from the general fund, you're going to have Congress. They're going to make the argument, well, we just need to have all of that money. So the trust funds, the money in the trust funds, as well as the payroll contribution, just have it all in general fund, and then we can go ahead and disperse it that way. But you allow them access to that money, and we're talking about trillions of dollars. You allow them access, let Congress have that money, then they're going to start spending it on different things. And then if we go to war with another country, guess what? They're going to be taking money and spending it in wars and things like that. So we want to make sure the payroll contribution stays walled off from the general fund, and the trust funds stay walled off from the general fund, because once they start mixing that money, that's going to be a disaster. So we don't want that. But he was saying that if we get to a point where, let's say, 9, 10, 11 years down the road, the trust fund is completely depleted, they could draw from the trust fund in order to pay out benefits at 100%, continue to pay out benefits to 100%. But it's something that I'm telling you, Congress needs to act before that, and I can't see them even wanting to do that, because this is going to be something that, if they're taking money from the general fund, that money will go to our debt, okay, our national debt. And it's going to be a situation where they're going to have to figure out, okay, well, do we really want to just continue running the debt up, not only with defense spending, but now we're running the debt up with Social Security? Right now, it's not happening. Why? Because the money is coming from separate places. Social Security does not add to our national debt at all. Okay, so when you start hearing politicians, and they do this all the time, they'll talk about Social Security, they'll talk about the fact that there's a lot of money that goes to pay out Social Security benefits, and then they'll say our national debt is at $34 trillion. And then when you look at it, you're thinking, okay, well, if we're spending all this money on Social Security, then obviously that money is adding to our national debt, when it's not doing that. That money is walled off. It's the payroll contribution like I talked about, and the trust funds. That's it. Okay, so I want to know what you guys think about all this, so let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.